our schedule here. We'll go ahead and jump back into the presentation.
Okay. All right. I'll carry on.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So as a company, we've been going since 2013. We're 13 people, so we're quite small. We're early stage startup. From an engineering point of view, which is the team that I'm involved in, we have people working in algorithm development, firmware development, hardware electronics, cloud development, and also in product design. So we have all of our engineering in-house, which I think is the main point of this. We've looked at working with sort of external sort of development houses in terms of trying to do what we're doing, but the technology that we're developing is very particular, and just through trial and error, we found that it's much better to bring as much expertise in-house as possible. This is very much 2018. This year is very much a pivotal year for us. It's the year when we will launch, and we anticipate using our revenue generation later this year in order to move on to Series A in early next year. And on that note, if there's anybody who is involved in business angels in early stage investing and likes the presentation that I'm gonna go through now and wants to talk to us about investing themselves, then I'd be very happy to put them in contact with the right people and get an investment pack sent out. Okay. So in terms of what you can see in green here is where we've been and where we are. We started in terms of concept validation. We obviously saw that there was an opportunity to work in terms of using sensor technology embedded with an in-ear device, an in-ear wearable device, in order to address what we felt was an interesting opportunity in the market generally. That started with an initial prototype build, and I'll show you some more information about what that prototype looks like, its form factor, and what it's designed to do. And we went straight into customer trials and also a medical evaluation as well. So we're looking at different sectors in terms of where we think our technology applies. Medical is one of those. It's not something that we will launch to straight away. As I'm sure everybody appreciates, it requires a quite heavy program of investment and program management to be able to be certified, but is nevertheless where we intend to be. However, initially, we feel our initial opportunity is very much in terms of the industrial health and safety, which means that we will next year start to look at ATEC certification. But at this stage, we're looking at, we're into our final product design. We've got a lot of feedback that we've been getting back from customers, and we will be launching towards the end of this year. So this is the prototype design that I referred to. This is something you can probably see on our website. We based a lot of our initial marketing around this. What was important for us was for us to be able to effectively establish our firmware development and, importantly, our algorithms, and have a form factor that worked, where we could test those algorithms in a way that we were getting the right level of feedback from the trials, where we were able to effectively measure the accuracy of those algorithms against established medical devices that work as gold standards. So in core body temperature, for example, there's a number of gold standards that are used to accurately measure core body temperature. There is a pill which you can ingest into your system, and it will monitor the temperature of your body as you're going through. And there are a number of different ways. Some of them uncomfortable, such as a rectal probe, if that's something that you want to use, which we have. Not me personally, but others have. But essentially the main point here is that we were very keen. What was important for us is, before we actually moved into a final sort of product design, that we focused very much in terms of our algorithms and the basis by which we devise our algorithms. before focusing on more of the industrial designs. I'm just going to pause there for questions. If anybody has anything, I thought I heard someone potentially try and say something. No? Okay. So just moving on. When it comes to precise physiological monitoring, what's important are the sensors and the algorithms that run those sensors. So in the context of Bodytrak, in terms of our product, what you can see here to your left are the range of the hardware sensors that we have embedded in our products, and on the right is a bit more information in terms of how we're using them. So one of our main unique capabilities in the product is accurately measuring core body temperature. We do that with our own sensor that we have engineered ourselves. It's using sort of standard technology components in terms of being able to deliver a non-contact, non-invasive basis for monitoring. We have patented the use of that technology. It's very much what we stand by in terms of our product. It's very much core to our product offering in terms of the accuracy of core body temperature movement measurement. And we use that to provide accurate real-time indication of any danger of things like heat stress indication happening. And there are a number of different ways in which you can establish heat stress. Physiological strain index, PSI, is one of them. In addition to that, one of the reasons why I'm talking today is that we're using heart rate monitoring and heart rate variability. Obviously, we're using the Valencell heart rate module for that solution. Heart rate variability, as I'm sure everybody understands, is a very interesting sort of area for algorithm development. It's showing and proving to be a very successful basis for monitoring in particularly professional sports. In our particular market sectors where we're using heart rate variability is for fatigue level monitoring and for level of consciousness. And that level of consciousness algorithm ties very much into this final set of sensors that I'm talking about here in terms of the 9-axis motion sensors that we use, such as a magnetometer, accelerometer, and gyroscope. You'll see when I talk a bit more about the form factor how we can use these sensors to be able to do quite accurate posture monitoring, which can be used for things like understanding when there's been a heavy fall or man down. But in terms of combining that with heart rate variability, we can use both the heart rate variability measure in combination with the motion sensors to be able to determine if that person, is fully unconscious or is moving. So I hope that makes sense in terms of the way in which we can use and combine the different range of sensors that we've got engineered into our products. So as I mentioned at the start, we're very much into our launch phase right now, and there's a number of things I can share with you in terms of how we're structured as a team to bring that product to market. So first off, there's an important element in terms of product design. There's a lot of, particularly consumer electronics, there's obviously a lot of in-ear wearable capabilities that are very well designed in terms of that ergonomic capability, and it's the same for us in terms of our need to work in the industrial sectors and medical sectors. The device that we're developing will be worn and needs to have usage and power sustained for up to 12 hours to cover shift work. Having something in your ear for that amount of time means that we need to focus very, very carefully in looking at the ergonomic and the aesthetic nature of our product. Algorithms are obviously critical. This is where we are building our IP, and we're using raw data from the hardware sensors to create the algorithms and establish a range of markers which we use to indicate and monitor across a range of conditions. So the main one I mentioned, for example, is in terms of using our core body temperature sensor to understand the point at which the individual's core body temperature is potentially going into onto the onset of heat stress. So this is particularly relevant for firefighters, for example, and people working in extremely hot environments. A lot of the work we're doing, particularly on the CBT side, is around patenting the integration work. So it's looking at not only how we develop the algorithms that run on the sensors, it's looking at how that sensor itself is integrated into the form factor, and utilizing other services such as audio alerts to alert the individual that something is amiss. So these are all areas of patents that we've explored in terms of being able to define and construct our intellectual property. And then we get more into involving in the more sort of standard sort of development areas. So systems design is obviously very essential for embedded work. So we're focused on using off-the-shelf embedded architectures. So we use an embedded Linux capability, which we have built ourselves. We looked at different solutions when it came to microprocessors and how we define our system architecture. So, for example, it's possible to buy, you can buy into ecosystems, which effectively is a microprocessing unit which comes ready-made with hardware drivers that relate to all different types of sensors, and you get a lot of support from the vendor when you move into when you start to use those kind of architectures, or you can do a kind of do-it-yourself, build your own Linux-based capability where effectively you're building and selecting a different range of sensors, and you're building that around your microprocessing unit, and you are responsible for building the hardware drivers and establishing the full system capability yourself. That's the route that we took. The reason for that is because the more established solutions were really only geared up to support established large companies, whereas what we felt was important was for us to have use the open source communities and work directly with the component manufacturers, and that's the route in which we took our system design. Hardware electronics, in terms of looking at the different PCBs that we have to define and work with the manufacturing partners.
Richard, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've got a couple people asking if you could speak louder, or if you could get a bit closer to your mic. Seems as if it's a little muted going out.
Okay. Is that any better?
That is perfect. Thanks, Richard.
Oh, right. Okay. So hardware electronics are obviously essential because you are working directly with your manufacturing partner. Having a very strong manufacturing partner for us, was essential. Other companies like to sort of do this in piecemeal, so they might design a PCB, go and get manufactured, test it, debug it, and then go to a different manufacturing partner to do. We feel that given the unique capabilities that we deliver, we felt more comfortable doing that in conjunction with a manufacturing partner that was going to support us all the way through our development plan. And obviously, system design and firmware development becomes very ingrained with hardware electronics. And then finally, cloud analytics. So we are also a cloud-centric platform. The cloud part of our offering is essential to delivering the solution that we're developing. The needs of supporting physiological data from a cloud platform perspective are somewhat unique because when you talk to different cloud platform providers, and by that I mean the established ones, the ones that we all sort of know very well, they're very keen to sort of talk to a company like us because they see a lot of data streaming coming into their platform, which needs to be managed, and a lot of machine learning, etc. So, however, they're not. I wouldn't say they are not all entirely set up the way that we wanted them in order to allow us to scale. What's important to know about what we're doing when it comes to cloud is that we can start off very low with a few customers, but as soon as we start to bring on board large customers that want us to monitor, sort of dozens or if not hundreds of individuals, the data starts to scale up incredibly fast. So being able to work with a cloud partner that can help us control the way we scale was very important into how we defined our cloud platform. So that little section there is really around how we go about our development and what we've learned so far in terms of getting the product to this stage. So this is an early concept of where we're going with our final product design. The final product will not look exactly like this, but the concept suggests exactly what the market can expect from our product. So we're looking at a 2-node design in the earpiece. We've got it's packed full of sensor integration. It's got a speaker driver. It's got audio alerts. It's got a CPU in there. There's a number of components. There are a number of PCBs in there, and it's been very challenging for us to be able to design and develop a miniaturized earpiece that meets the requirements in terms of the feedback we got from our trials, and is still aesthetically pleasing and is comfortable to wear for long periods of time. So a lot of what that trial information came back to us was fed into how we ended up with a particular design that we are now addressing within the earpiece itself. It's physically connected via a wire because we need to be able to provide quite a lot of battery power to make it to power the processing, to run the algorithms, to connect to our cloud, to provide security, to deliver ATEX conformity. So having by separating and effectively using a separated unit to provide that power means that we can deliver the requirements as we see them in terms of a miniaturized form factor for the earpiece, plus use that secondary unit to support the main communication system with additional processing and, of course, power. At the beginning, I talked about how we were using motion sensors. So we could put motion sensors in the earpiece, and we could put motion sensors in the power unit, and that gives our algorithm some added capabilities when it comes to posture management. So there was a number of real benefits to how we've now ended up with this form factor. So in terms of experiences with Valencell, I mean, the good news for our host is that it's an excellent product. It's an effective design for an in-ear wearable. In our testing, it is proved to be very consistent in terms of delivering and accurately delivering heart rate and heart rate variability data. It would be great to have closer access to the PPG signal, but obviously that's something Valencell need to control themselves. However, in terms of what I can share about the module itself, you can see there that as it's been highlighted, that it protrudes and sits in that part of the Caseworks We have found that even though the module is accurate when it's not touching the skin, when it's not in contact with the skin, it is more accurate when it is in contact with the skin. And obviously, a lot of what we are engineering into our product in terms of precision means that we want the highest levels of accuracy that we can get. So we have designed our earpiece so that the Valencell module sits in the concha bowl of your ear, which is the lower part of your ear, just inside. It's the bowl sort of shapes that I'm sure you can easily identify. So by using our industrial design by having our industrial design, by using the Valencell module, we kind of anchor it, probably isn't the right word, but we position the Valencell module so it sits in the concha bowl. That provides a good level of stability for the earpiece itself, so it stays within the ear. The stability means that we've got firm skin contact, so we are getting the highest levels of accuracy that we want from the PPG signal, and it also means that Casey, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, can you see me?
I can see your presentation, yeah.
You can, okay. I just got a little alert saying network had gone down. So that also means that from a stable point of view, it's benefiting our core body temperature sensor, which is the end here, so that needs to be very stable and keeping a good sort of line of sight with inside the ear canal. So there are a number of advantages, both from an ergonomic as well as a technical point of view, that makes the Valencell sort of very complementary to our overall product. So I think one issue really is, obviously, given the size, the reduced size of the earpiece here, there's a lot of electronics, there's a lot of circuitry and components inside there. So it's about getting as much space from inside the earpiece as possible. So we're using robust polycarbonate material, but we're also, in our design work, we're also pushing the boundary in terms of reducing the thickness of the walls of the caseworks to make sure that we can get so much circuitry inside there. And that's been a particular challenge for us that we've managed to come up with some good solutions for. So what you can see here is just an image of output from one of our CAD. It's to show you how we've designed the module. So we've got a little trench area here, for example, that is used to allow the module to sit easily in the ear. You can also see that within the silicon, we're protruding the window of the Valencell module in order to get the most clearest signal that we can. The idea really is to ensure that we are reducing, with designing it, so we are reducing the amount of contact there is with the skin. So there is less and less chance of it becoming uncomfortable with continued use. But essentially, yeah, you can see ways in which we're trying to ensure that we've got the best mechanical fit for the module to deliver the clearest signal while at the same time trying to maximize comfort for the individual that's wearing it. So I want to a bit more around sort of connectivity and communications. Connectivity in an IoT world is obviously critical. We're using Bluetooth Low Energy and Bluetooth Classic. We're also using, so let me just one thing I should have said at this point here is that within this cable, we've got a push-to-talk assembly being manufactured. So the device will connect to two-way radios. A lot of these radios are already fully supported with Bluetooth. They also have the capabilities to relay data paths as well. So they become quite interesting sort of complementary solutions for our product, in the sense that the individual who would be well used and having a two-way radio as part of their everyday equipment, where they are working in hazardous environments or etc., they can use the Bodytrak to relay the communications from their two-way radio into the earpiece, and they can use the inline assembly on our cable to be able to effectively push to talk as and when they need, and we use Bluetooth for that.
Richard, I'll stop you right there. It looks like we have a quick question from David. He wanted to know, how did you evaluate the trade-off between wireless freedom and wired reliability?
In terms, just sort of, David, so we're talking about the communications here, or we're talking about the wired part between the unit and the earpiece, or we're talking about particularly about the PTT part where we're connecting via Bluetooth? So obviously one's wired, one's wireless. I'm just trying to understand which of the two the question's related to.
David, are you able to clarify? Yes, the wire. It seems to limit freedom of operation.
So what we're looking to do is effectively ensure that that a lot of people in the sectors that we're talking to already have wired equipment. So that what we don't want to do is introduce more wires in that situation in a way that it's impeding the way that people want to do the work. So the wired assembly can effectively mean that the unit itself can be hidden away. So it's a question of making sure that we can, maybe perhaps we'll have to design different wire lengths. If the unit needs to be sort of positioned somewhere in the body that isn't sort of in the uppermost of the chest area. But the feedback we're getting from the potential companies in the sectors that we're targeting is that the wired solution works so long as the unit is independent and can be positioned somewhere where the trailing wire isn't actually affecting any sort of movement or impeding the way that they want to work. But yeah, I understand the question in terms of, well, do people really want more wires to wear? But the feedback is in terms of being able to accurately protect the well-being of individuals, then so long as the compact unit can be sort of positioned under a tunic and the wire sort of tucked away, then it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue.
Great, thanks, Richard.
So we also have Wi-Fi supports. A lot of the petrochemical, oil and utility companies have their own Wi-Fi networks around their engineering plants, and we can use that. We want to use that Wi-Fi network to be able to relay the data back to an incident management center where a supervisor is able to see the data being displayed on a local network. We also have 3G, 4G mobiles, so we can get as much universal network capability as possible. Yeah, is there a question coming up?
That looks, nope.
Okay.
Yep, we're ready to move
okay.
on.
And then we have location positioning. So all of the communications are effectively looking to be as wide-ranging and as universal in order to support a lot of the way in which these companies are set up themselves. So Wi-Fi for local network connections, 3G and 4G for remote connections, and we can also hop on to other wireless networks as well. We're seeing a lot of upcoming sort of drone-based LTE networks, particularly in defence. So where there are training exercises, for example, in the military context, we're seeing solutions where people are deploying LTE networks running off drones to support communications and data in very remote areas. So this is something that we can also work with this range of communication systems that we support. In terms of cloud, which I talked about before, so cloud is, as I said, essential. What you can see here are a range of different industrial sectors that we're active in terms of trials right now. So we're in discussion with logistics companies that want to be able to ensure that their drivers are, the well-being of their drivers are looked after. So this isn't just about people while they're driving, it's about people when they are delivering things by themselves in remote areas, and they want to be alerted when it comes to a slip or a fall, for example. Soldier acclimatization, where soldiers, particularly in selection and training situations, are being instantly deployed into quite hot climatic environments, and we have the ability to make sure that they're protected from things like heat stress. Lone worker, miners, for example, in terms of industrial workforces. Again, these are areas that we can protect. Post-op patient monitoring is one of the active areas we have right now in terms of our medical trials. There is some interest from sports, professional sports area, particularly in cycling. And fire services is also an area where we have a lot of active discussion, in particularly obviously helping firefighters protect from heat stress. In terms of the access points to the cloud, so we can, it's important that we're able to display the data directly to the individual so they can see what's going on. And we can do that on any Android device. We have an APK that will effectively manifest as an Android app, and so the individual themselves can see the data on their device. And then we have a web app capability, so you can use a simple browser capability to get access to our cloud and see what the dashboard is saying. In terms of a dedicated customer endpoint, such as an incident management center, we've obviously got web access, and then there's the opportunity to relay the data for a particular customer to the customer's own third-party network, which we do through a cloud API capability. So the solution that we deliver in terms of ensuring the remote monitoring capability isn't entirely dependent on standard web portal access, for example. So we can relay the data over a REST API and allow the customer to run that display as part of their own network. And this is an example of the Android capability. So what we're seeing here is, and this is entirely customizable in terms of how the customer wants to see the different individuals and what vital signs are being displayed. But obviously, what's important is to be able to clearly identify the individuals that are wearing the device and provide a straightforward red, amber, green alert system in terms of where issues are being detected. In all, this is what we think is a very robust, unique solution to provide well-being and health and safety protection for remote users working in difficult situations or hazardous environments. So I'll stop there and just give folks the opportunity to ask any other questions if they've got a particular interest in what I've been saying.
All right. right, folks. Thanks, Richard. That was great. If we have any questions, if you could please submit those through the web interface. I do see one from Ali saying this may be an obvious question, and I know we covered it a bit in the beginning, but he asked, what parameters can we currently track?
So the main ones are based around core body temperature and being able to continuously measure core body temperature for people that are working in hazardous environments. So the main purpose there is to ensure that individuals are brought out of situations if they're approaching, if their body temperature is approaching anything close to something that might induce heat stress. In addition to that, we can use algorithms in a medical sense to monitor core body temperature in ways that may indicate some level of health. So where the body has gone through is in a post-operative situation, for example, core body temperature is a vital sort of metric in that sense. And then we use heart rate variability and heart rate monitoring. We're looking at fatigue management. We're looking at sort of heart rate fluctuations, trial fibrillation, for example. That's another area that we can identify. And there are different areas. I mean, I can't give too much away in terms of where we're going more specifically, but there are areas in terms of sort of medical areas that we're looking at, which are part of our roadmap. But essentially, there are quite a few range of markers that you can focus on when it comes to combining core body temperature with heart rate variability that we're focused on.
Great. And Richard, we've got one more from Jim. He asked about battery size and battery life. How long does it last? Size of battery. I'm not sure if you can share that information, but just a general idea.
Yeah, so battery technology is pretty well advanced thanks to the smartphone industry. So, we're kind of parallel with what you would see in most smartphones. They're the kind of level of capabilities that we're looking at. So, in terms of battery life, because of the nature of the use cases that we're addressing, we need to be covering sort of at least 8-hour day shifts, night shifts. But battery power is obviously dependent on how much frequency is going into the algorithm, whether or not how often Bluetooth is being used for communications, if there's a strong sense of location positioning, for example. So typically for our market areas, we need to be looking at least 8 hours, which is how we've modelled the battery that we've actually gone with.
Great. If there are any more questions, please go ahead and submit those for Richard. We'll wait just a couple minutes to make sure we get all of those in. Ali has asked, how much testing has been done to correlate body temperature and heart rate to these specific physiological conditions that we covered in this presentation?
Lots. So it was really where the initial prototype that I mentioned was used in order to make sure that we've got very high correlation between our measurement capabilities and comparing those with gold standard. So there have been different university. We have submitted we've worked with universities who have basically used our technology to deliver comparison reports. But they're available on our website. If you're interested to see a bit more about that. There's also work that's been going on with companies that are involved in the health and safety equipment. So we have to be testing with them, because there's part of what we need to do is work in conjunction with existing established health and safety equipment. So the manufacturers and vendors of equipment are very interested to test and trial. So there's different ways. I mean, certainly it's very, very expensive, but from a medical sense or clinical sense, it tends to follow one model, whereas when it comes to a business development opportunity, it tends to sort of effectively be based on active trials.
Great. And then I know you shared some of your challenges throughout the presentation, but John has asked, what would you say is the biggest challenge, developing the hardware, developing the system as a whole, or developing the relationship to ultimately deploy the product?
So the challenges really are in terms of, I think, well, the challenges are certainly there's a mechanical design challenge, because we've had to reduce the form factor of the earpiece and go through a number of different iterations in terms of the electronics needed to sit within that device. The algorithms take an awful long time. That is, as anyone that's involved in algorithms, I mean, they're never finished. You're constantly tuning them, and that's always something that is very specific to the sort of the technology. But in terms of the embedded side of things, it's the main challenges really are around, I think, getting to a mechanical design and reducing the size of electronics to fit within the form factor that we think is going to be most attractive for the market. I'd say that would probably be the main one.
Great. It looks like we'll leave this open for just another minute or two for questions, if anyone has anything for Richard. All right, it doesn't look like, oh wait, here we go. From Andy, do you have any publicly available studies on the CBT and heart rate data accuracy?
Yeah, we do. We have a number of white papers on our website that details, I think there's about 3 on there at the moment, maybe more, that details how, from a sort of university, sort of academic perspective, they have tested our capabilities in core body temperature. From a heart rate side, there are comparisons on there in terms of looking at ECG-based capabilities to make sure that we are accurate. I think they might be in presentation format more than white paper format, but yeah, there is information on our website you can find that should help with that question.
Great. And as mentioned before, we'll be sending out the presentation with the recording, and what I can do is add some links to those white papers as well, so everyone should have quick access following this presentation. If there are no more questions, then in the interest of time, we can wrap things up. We really appreciate everyone sticking with us today through all of our technical issues and audio issues. We will, like I mentioned, be providing a recording. So if you missed any of that due to connectivity issues, we will share that shortly. Richard, we really appreciate it. That was great. Thank you for joining us today. And we appreciate everyone sticking through it. We've got Richard's contact information here, as well as we'll be sharing Valencell information. So if you have any questions or wanted to discuss further, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.